Cocalico Township Supervisor meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please silence your cell phones, and this meeting is recorded to be on YouTube. First thing would be approval of the minutes for Thursday, March 21st. Any additions or corrections to those minutes?
Make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented.
I will second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Department reports.
I don't have anything from the chief. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer, but I don't have anything specific.
Okay, thank you. Tony, zoning officer.
As usual, I will present a full report at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. List of bills.
Okay, a list of bills, and they are as follows. You have a total general fund of $134,390.63. Total state fund of $5,721.53. Questions? Make a motion, we accept the bills as presented.
I'll second the motion. This is over a month's worth of bills.
Right.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Land planning.
Mr. Chair, I'm kind of scrambling real quick to get this part open, but I'll be friendly for the day. Basically, what we have here is just 2 time extensions. The first one is for members first. The program is, our project has been progressing nicely. Later on in the agenda, you have the advertisement of the text amendment for the digital messaging board, which is a critical component of their project. So right now, the motion is just to accept the written time extension offer as submitted by the applicant's consolidated April 3rd, 2019, which will extend the deadline for action on members first preliminary final subdivision and land development plan until May 3rd, 2019. So they're only asking for a month.
Yeah, and there's nobody here for
There's
that.
nobody here for that, so.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next one is for Mount Zion Baptist Church. That one has been progressing at a little bit slower pace. There's some authority issues that they're working out with the water line in particular. They're trying to figure out how to navigate with Denver Road. But they have been progressing and showing progress, and I do see them moving forward. So the motion is to accept the written 90-day time extension offer as submitted by the applicant's consultant dated March 29, 2019, which will extend the deadline for action on Mount Zion Baptist Church final land development plan until June 24th, 2019.
And nobody's here for that.
No one's here either.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Is there anything else just on the land planning side? It's not in your packets, it's just to give you a heads up, because we will not have another meeting till May.
Yeah.
But for our first May's meeting, you're going to see in the proposal, a proposal from Brent for surveying and for wetland delineation for the Rose Hill Basin. It came in last night, so it's kind of too late to throw in the packets this morning. But that'll be for May, and that's coming in line with one of our MS4 pollution reduction plan projects. It's also an issue right now with Abstown Sewer Authority with pipe protection of their sewer main that goes down to the treatment facility and the pumping station. So you're going to be seeing that next month, and that will be going right to action for that. So and it's not a big fee, and it's something that we've been in coordination with the homeowner. Tony's working with the solicitor right now, and there's going to be an agreement that with the homeowner to allow us to do work on the basin for our MS4 creds. And this is part of it.
Just to add to Scott's comment, I did receive an email from Mike Palm with the Adamstown Federal Wastewater plant. Spoke with his board about it, and they're in progress. They're making progress in getting the access lane cleared so that they can get in there. Basically waiting for weather to cooperate. It's a very wet area back area and has been drumming out. So they're moving forward on repairing or at least protecting that line.
We're getting a lot more rain next week.
Oh boy, yeah. Can't catch a break.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott.
Sending a spring newsletter to the printer.
You have a draft copy of the newsletter. A couple things we did differently. We do have actually, Team Ag wrote an article for us for MS4 purposes, but it's related to ag, about a program, a grant program where the farmers can get assistance with preparing conservation plans. So we felt that from an MS4 perspective, we run that as our lead story. We are a little light on articles, so I might see if we could throw a fire article or a EMS article into the mix too. And if we get a good enough article, we could make that our top story. But also, I'll see if there happens to be anything on PSATs or some of the others on EMS in particular, or fire services that we can just reprint and throw into our newsletter.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on for this.
Right now.
Well, yeah, we'll talk more about fire service in a little bit, but that's, if there's anything else that you guys would like to see in there, it's got our usual fare of the pool stuff for our spring summer newsletter. And we are waiting for Terry to get back from the authority side, to get the authority protocol. He's on vacation for the last 2 weeks. So he'll be back on Monday, so we'll get the authority part of the articles from that.
Yeah. Any comments or questions from the board? Okay.
So the, basically just, the motion is just to send the draft newsletter to the printer after edits are complete.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Advertised ordinance 2019-03, police pension amendment.
Well, there's before that, it's the transfer of non-uniform employee pension.
Oh, I'm
plan
sorry.
to TD Ameritrade. This is a continuation of the process that we started with the going away from principal and going to Univest. TD Ameritrade is the investment platform that Univest utilizes, and we've already taken care of the police, and they're in a much better place today than they were 6 months ago.
I agree.
We had some issues to work out on the non-uniform side, and Liz can elaborate a little bit more on that, but we're now at the point where we're transferring the non-uniform side to also away from principal and into Univest via TD Ameritrade. So you're going to have 2 items, and I'll read the motions here. The motion is to terminate the non-uniform plan with Principal Financial Group as of 4/4/2019 and transfer the assets as of 4/30/2019 to TD Ameritrade Trust Company. And the second motion is to adopt the non-uniform pension agreement with TD Ameritrade Trust Company as of 4/4/2019. Because of the lateness, we did have a second thing. It's outside your packet, but this is also something you've seen in the email that we had sent to you and you had looked at throughout the week. So those are your two motions. First motion is to terminate, and the second motion is to adopt the agreement.
And I'll make those motions.
I'll second.
Who's the one to comment on?
Do both.
Yeah, we do it at the same time.
Okay. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
And Scott, once we finish that, then we should be putting, for the police department, we should be putting in our first meeting either quarterly or biannually, or in terms of meeting with Univest and seeing how the plans are operating.
There's going to be there's also
With
going
the
to,
committee.
there's going to be actually, before we do that, there's another meeting that needs to occur. Actually, what we go is we've been putting off the non-uniform meeting with the employees until we got this transfer done. So we have a couple more steps to go through, and then we will set that meeting up, and we will ask Univest to come to that meeting. And then we can do a work group meeting afterwards.
Piggyback the police one.
But we owe the non-uniform employees a meeting now at this point, so, and it's been put off for a couple months while we've been working on this. And the other thing, just to make you aware, is we will be, the next motion you're going to be doing is about the police pension amendment to for ordinance. You're going to be doing the same thing in May, and to advertise the ordinance for the non-uniform side. So today we're talking about the police side, and advertising ordinance. In May, we're going to be doing the non-uniform side.
Okay, the next motion would be the ordinance of 2019-03, police pension amendment, right?
All right, this is just a motion to advertise the ordinance 2019-03 police pension amendment, and then it's a pension plan applicable to the uniform employees of East Cocalico Township. And it's as simple as advertised, so the hearing would be our main meeting.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second the motion. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, thank you. Advertised vehicles.
This follows up our last two meetings discussions about the sale and purchase, and now, purchase and now the sale of equipment. We combined both the police and the road crews equipment, so you have a number of items in here. See, it's a total of 9 items. We've already talked about these items at length with our previous meetings. This is just a motion to advertise it on municipal bid. I'm not having a bid opening date this time in advertisement deliberately because we might have to keep re-advertising specific pieces of equipment if we don't like the bid that comes in. So simply it's a motion to advertise on municipal bid and to put the advertisement in the paper.
Lessons learned.
Yes. Never do that.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We advertise these vehicles in municipal bid
As well as the advertisement in the paper.
in the paper.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Advertised hearing for digital sign, doesn't text. amendment.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is a continuation of what we just talked about for members first.
Mhm.
This is the digital sign. This is just to advertise that the hearing will be in May again. It's going to be a very busy meeting. This has been reviewed by both the Planning Commission and by the County Planning Commission. The County Planning Commission really had no comments. Our Planning Commission actually did a little bit more due diligence. They will have the applicant will have their attorney present to explain the text amendment when they meet. So this is simply to advertise.
So any questions, we'll wait until.
You wait for the May meeting.
That's fine, yeah.
Okay.
So the motion is to advertise a hearing for the digital signing text amendment for the May 8th?
Third.
May 3rd.
May 3rd meeting. Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. 2019 road paving bid received.
I'll read the motion first and then we'll talk about this. The motion is to approve the lowest qualified bidders for 2019 road paving bids in the amount of $289,771.75 in Newman Price Stone and Lime Company for items number 1, 2, and 4, and an amount of $46,142.66 to Martin Paving Incorporated for item number 3, and authorize the Board of Supervisors to sign contracts when properly prepared and presented to the township in a form acceptable to township staff. So we got our bids in, we came in under budget. Significantly under budget on the road paving side and slightly over budget on the oil and chip side. Overall, the bids are under budget. We are doing something new on the Martin paving side. We are actually doing what's called a Cape Seal. A Cape Seal is something that West Cocalico has been doing for a number of years on a number of their roadways. What that involves is you actually go into a residential development, which we've already started doing this. You do an oil and chip, and then you street sweep, and then you do a fog seal on top of the oil and chip. It helps bind the oil and stones down, and it looks like pavement when it's all said and done. So we're going back over a number of our streets that we did last year with the standard oil chip, and we're doing a 1/4-inch oil chip with a fog seal on those roadways, and basically then we can park those roadways for the next 10 years with our residential streets and focus on other residential streets. But we're looking at doing this Cape Seal actually in residential neighborhoods. There are downsides to that, because oil chip does generate stone. And it has to be explained to residents, and it does result in additional street sweeping because of the oil and the stone. We also did have some problems with last fall's oil and chip. I would say what we did in Quail Hollow was successful. What we did in Old Homestead had a less than desirable result at this point. There was more stones. That oil, the fall oil mix that came in there did not adhere to the road as well as the summer oil did for what we did in Quail Hollow. So a lot more stone came up. We did talk to a number of residents. We explained to them that yes, we're actually having the road crew go out next week, and they're actually going to kick the stone that kicked up onto the grass. We have a device, that little, it's a weed paddle thing, and we're going to kick the stone back onto the roadway for the street sweeping while cleaning up. So we talked to the residents. They're understanding. They're a little annoyed, but they're understanding once we explain what we're going to do. But it does mean our road crew's going to be out there next week, spending most of the next week just going out, grooming, sweeping, cleaning up, pushing everything to the gutter line so that the street sweeper can be, in particular, focusing on Old Homestead. We did tell Old Homestead that their roads are getting paved next year, so it's a temporary condition.
Scott, what was the binding issue? Was it temperature or did they change the mix?
It's a different mix with the fall, and also, I think the spring mix had all of summer for it to set. So it had a full season to set. The fall mix did not have as much time to set, plus it was a wet fall on top of it all. So it just didn't do as well. So we had some patches that lost up to 50% of their patch in Old Homestead. We didn't have that issue with the spring stuff.
Mainly temperature.
Our lessons learned, so that was the first year we really used it, was we're going to use it. So we have plans to use it this spring, and then we're not going fall. So there's not going to be any fall work at this point. So that's your motions you have. We are kind of excited. This is our first, Quail Hollow represents our first residential development that we are paving in the township. I mean, up to this point, all the paving has been on the outlier roads and on our collector streets and stuff like that, but we've not done anything in the residential developments. This is a deliberate plan now for the next 5 to 7 years of paving in our residential streets and actually letting our outlier streets go while we do our residential streets. There is going to be some downsides to letting our outlier roads go. The township has done with Kenny Eshelman did an outstanding job of maintaining those streets. Now we're going to bank on that maintenance for a couple of years in order to address our residential streets that have not been maintained. That means that some of our streets that are outlier streets will start showing some maintenance and wear as the maintenance gets deferred on those streets while we focus on the residential streets. But that's deliberate. We are looking at, in particular, using that chip seal will be used in later years on those outlier streets, just to patch areas that start showing premature failure, buy more time for our residential streets. That's kind of the overall plan for paving. And Chris and I will, by summertime, have finished the roadway audits that we've been doing, the surveys for all the residential developments, which will then finalize the paving plan for residential developments. That's paving in a nutshell.
Okay, the motion to approve the lowest qualified bids. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Consider approval of Cocalimo race. This is a yearly activity. Cup Pack 60 requests that Saturday, July 20th, we would allow them to close Eversole Road from 8 to 12. They will get fire police to control traffic at that time. And since I'm a part of the pack, and yet, even though I resigned as co-master, I'll recuse myself from this.
You're not
I'm not allowed to vote because I'm
I make a motion that we allow the Cocalino to proceed as usual.
I second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Scope and fee survey for Stony Point Park.
I appreciate the board's flexibility in letting me add this rather short notice onto the agenda. Given that we do not have another meeting until May, It's kind of critical that we get this survey going. This is actually for Stony Point Park for the community build. Design day, as we said, multiple meetings now, is May 6th. The goal is to have this design, or the survey work complete and a base plan survey, just of existing conditions ready to hand off to the designer on May 6th, when he shows up to start his design. Hershey survey gave a very good number, right in line with what I would expect. All this work is budgeted in 2019. All the work is being paid for via the Park and Rec Dedication Fund. It's not coming from the general fund. So just for the record, and those funds have to be spent on parking projects. And that's what this is what it's being spent for. Again, just another plug too, we are moving forward with Design Day. There is a Stony Point meeting next week, next Tuesday. If any supervisors can attend, that would be great at this point. There will be laying out assignments for Design Day itself. And I'll send you all an invite, get on your calendars. But we'll be laying out Design Day itself. A lot of good work has been happening over the last couple of weeks. The working group has really kicked it into overdrive at this point. We're anticipating a number of new volunteers showing up at this meeting due to the volunteer recruiting that's been going on for the last 2 months. But what we have before you is simply a motion to approve the Hershey survey incorporated scope and fee for topographic survey of Stony Point Park for a lump sum fee of $3,700.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. I have something I'd like to interject. I got a letter from one of our residents, Lynn Firestone. As a resident of Cocalico Township, living in Greenstown, I've noticed the tennis court and our pool park seldom ever used. This is a fairly new sport. She'd like to stripe it for pickleball. I think it was a year ago we let somebody do it.
Probably 2, but yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years ago, the old homestead, so I'd like to make a motion if the board is agreeable that we authorize Lynn Firestone and her group to do striping of the pool tennis court for pickleball.
I just asked, what is pickleball?
You don't use a dill pickle. I think you use a paintball
Yeah,
fire.
it's a takeoff of volleyball. And it's smaller court, higher sides. They put, it's pretty active. I've never played it. You gotta have your head this way.
I think we use a small
Yeah,
little,
it's a small ball.
a small ball, and you don't use a tennis racket, you use a,
It's something like a bag.
Abandoned racket.
Something like that.
something similar. You have it?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of thing. So, I think if we could pass that off to our parking rack,
Right.
give them a reason to be other than Stony Point Park.
Okay.
But they're actually holding a meeting for next one, so we can have them
Okay, do you want to get them to the
talk
letter?
about that. And I do think, given some of our funding constraints and given the Stony Point Park's a pretty hard focus, I think we're going to come back with some maintenance recommendations for Reamstown Park right now. Where there was a process that we can incorporate that on our roads that we could possibly use for the basketball court that could fill those cracks.
Yeah.
And we could possibly look at just doing a repaint, maintenance paint on the tennis courts, and if we do that, and possibly incorporate different line striping instead of just more tennis court, but the other line striping instead.
I think pretty well the letter was like that they were going to do the striping themselves. They just wanted approval to do it there.
I think we could talk about that.
Yeah.
Realistically, it's not going to be, if we do a maintenance treatment on there, we're going to be wiping out the whole tennis court lines anyways. And if we could just have one person come back in and put everything in regulation.
Okay.
For
you
all
wanna-
the things. I got a copy of it.
Okay, you want to contact her then?
Yeah, I'll reach out to her.
Okay, good enough. Old business. And that's 4.
You got a copy? Okay, you pass it on to-
Pickle.
You make fun of me now, aren't you?
Well, I
Yeah.
asked what I guess,
Well, I want to give an update first off on MS4. Ken and I went to the Lancaster County Clean Water Partners meeting. We talked about what they've been working on for a number of months now, which was called the Lancaster County WIP, Waterway Improvement Plan. That's part of the Pennsylvania WIP that basically sets how Pennsylvania is going to comply with the legal mandates of the Chesapeake Bay program. I wanted to get this in the hands, and I think this would be something worthy for the papers to take a look at too. But they have posed that what you have before you is a summary of what is in the countywide WIP. So what's in a document that's a couple hundred pages is being summarized right now in a 2-page snapshot, which is an appropriate level to talk about right now. If you look at the bottom third of your first page, you see PRPs and you see an asterisk next to it. It says PRPs are not included in the Lancaster County template, but are part of the reductions for Lancaster County. And you look above and you see nitrogen and phosphorus, and you see the total number that all of the municipal MS4 pollution reduction plans are removing in the next 5 years 67,751 pounds of nitrogen. Okay? And that's costing the municipalities roughly in somewhere in the nature of between $20 to $30 million to do that removal of these plants. The countywide WIP is looking to remove 9,197,613 pounds of nitrogen. To put that in perspective, our plans, our pollution reduction plans are reducing 1% of what's in the county plan right now for nitrogen reduction, less than 1%. The other thing to take into account is you see stormwater up there, and you see 30,000 pounds next to stormwater. When you see that, that means that is urbanized areas, that is MS4 areas, that's outside of our pollution reduction plan right now. So that's basically saying that they would like another 50% reduced more out of the pollution reduction plans than what's currently shown by the municipalities. But the big number is they're looking at ag to reduce nitrogen by 8,343,000 pounds. So again, all the municipalities with our MS4 program are reducing 67,000 pounds. And we represent 1% of the nutrient reduction in the county right now for the next 5 years. So we don't know yet how they're actually going to act upon this plan by 2025. We do believe, and I've already asked Ken to start refocusing a little bit, is that there's going to be pressure on the municipalities to come alongside and help assist the conservation district, because this is a conservation district product right now. The conservation district is the one that oversees this group. The conservation district is the one that employs the person who runs this group. The conservation district has been actively involved in the development of this plan. And the conservation district has put most of the burden on implementing this plan on the farms. But there's not the funding to go along with it on the farm side, not to this magnitude that we're aware of yet. So devil's in the detail right now. Where's the funding going to come from to do this amount of work on Lancaster County farms that's being proposed? It also goes back to what I've been preaching for 10 years now, which is you look at how expensive our MS4 program is, and you look at what we're actually accomplishing. We're spending millions of dollars to do a 1% improvement to the bay, to put it very bluntly. If we had spent those millions of dollars on the farms, we could have been doing a 25–30% improvement to the bay. I feel very confident in making that statement. as an engineer. So from a policy perspective, it goes back to we're doing the most expensive projects with the least bang for the buck at the municipal level, and quite frankly, we're not really making any impact on the bay when you look at the big numbers with our pollution reduction plans. That's my soapbox. It's good, and now you actually have numbers that match what I've been saying to you guys for the last couple of years, and I've been saying in the engineering community for the last 15 years at this point. That we and DEP have been going around like this the wrong way, and I say that loosely because it really is a state at this point that's really gone at this the wrong way. And now the county plan matches that. So where the funding is going to come from the farms, we don't know. But we do know Lancaster County Conservation District does not have the staff to implement this plan, not even remotely. And so we feel that they're probably going to come back on the municipalities to at least help them with the staffing needs part of it. And so what we are doing on our end is Ken is going to be reaching out to Team Ag, and we're going to be looking at some grants that might be available to get Team Ag to do what was done with Farmland Trust a couple of years ago, and just get an inventory of the farms in the township, which ones have conservation plans, which ones have implemented their conservation plans fully, which ones still need a conservation plan or need help and assistance in implementing one, and then looking at what local grant monies that might be available to help the farmers out to get themselves compliant, all in playing defense because we see what's coming with this plan, so we want to try and stay ahead of this one, especially to protect the farmers in this township. So we need to know which farmers are compliant, which ones aren't, and then try and get some financial assistance to the ones that aren't compliant before every other farm in the county is in the same situation, trying to get themselves compliant.
Scott, to your point, from my understanding and reading in this situation, I think you made a comment about what the state's doing. I think they're just pushing down whatever the federal level tells them. They're not pushing back one bit, Ken, I think, from what I've read.
I'll push back a little bit. Actually, ironically, EPA is the more flexible of the two groups right now. EPA has been saying for the last 10 years that the state needs to look at total, not just focus on the MS4 and put the money where it makes the most sense. This is DEP. And I can go on the record saying that. This is DEP is the one that stops with it. EPA would love to see the municipalities right now shift their focus and their monies from ineffective plans to something that's more effective.
So then it's shifted.
Well, it hasn't shifted yet because DEP doesn't recognize it.
I think the most telling, just reading this thing, the most telling piece of information is on the very first sentence on the first page. Lancaster County is the highest loading county in Pennsylvania Chesapeake Bay watershed, period. Tells you all you need to know. And you know, I feel badly for the farmers because they're getting pushed on all the time for this and that, but you know, we try and preserve the farmland in Lancaster County. We even give money to preserve the farmland, and we give them clean and green, which they don't pay the right tax they should, and then we're getting hammered on the other end for this. It's a catch-22. It really is.
And in all fairness to the Conservation District, in essence, this is a Conservation District product.
I know.
I mean, they're one of the partners, but they're the lead partner
Right.
in this group. I mean, there's business, the EDC, Chamber, there's a whole bunch of entities, Turkey Hill is part of the partnership. There's a whole bunch of entities involved, but this is Conservation County-led. It's a county-wide program led by the Conservation District, and they have singled out that they will remove 8.3 million pounds of nitrogen from the farms over the next 5 years. With how part not answered right now.
That's it, how are you gonna do it?
Nor the financing to go with the how part. But the frustrating thing is, and what I've been saying for years, is if you look at what we're doing and what it actually accomplishes and how much money we spend, if we spent that $500,000 that we have budgeted for our pollution reduction plans on ag EMPs on ag stormwater projects, we would be having a tenfold reduction than what we're currently doing right now. And that's conservative.
Not an easy problem to
So
solve.
again, I don't know if I'm missing anything at this point from your perspective.
Well, that certainly summarizes what the regulations are pushing us towards. Mentioned something about sampling.
Go
I put together a proposal that would be seeking grant for somewhere to actually start collecting data. A lot of this MS4 stuff from the state and EPA is based on modeling and estimates, and very little of it is actually real numbers that came from somewhere. And what I'm proposing is to start a program of, as we're able to grab samples of water during storms and analyze them for a parameter called turbidity. It's how cloudy the water is, how little light gets through it, but it's very well correlated with the amount of sediment in the water and also phosphorus and to some degree nitrogen. So and it's a simple test. You basically put a sample of it in a meter and it gives you a number. And so we could have staff, road crew, if it starts raining, take 10 minutes, take a bottle and grab some water at the outfalls from basins and things and start building up a database of exactly what's going on. And as we implement plans like the stream bank restoration in Reamstown, we can come back after that and compare before and after if we have a baseline data set so that we can show them, hey, this did this much. And also allow us to show that the problem is originating in the agricultural areas, not the urban areas. So we can document that stuff.
And to what you're saying, you could also isolate the area that it's coming from.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, you've got this stream and you know Joe and Harry and Tom are contributing to that stream. Well,
As part of the MS4, we're devising what are called MS3s. And those are small areas within the township where the water drains to an outlet point through a basin or into a stream or something where you can measure it. And those specific areas are going to be the baseline points that we'll sample at.
So one of the things that the conservation district, back to the ag stuff, and back to what Ken was talking about, but there is going to be, some of the townships, the more rural, like Salisbury Town, not hire an MS4 coordinator. They actually hired an ag coordinator. And I do picture Ken's time now being more and more becoming split between doing MS4 and doing ag, given what we're seeing. Because quite frankly, ag's going to be where we make the improvements anyways, realistically. And there is a certain credit, we found out yesterday from Michael Sal when we had our MS4 meeting, there is a certain credit that will occur just for the county getting all their farms to be baseline. That basically have an implemented conservation plan. That will help a little bit into that number. It won't get us to 9.2 million pounds of nitrogen production, but it will help to be the first step in that direction. And that's certainly something that we can help assist with on our end to kind of help the conservation district by going forward with the Team Ag and getting the grant monies in place for that. That's kind of what we talk about playing defensive, because we see what's coming, and the worst thing will be to wait a whole nother year and then start doing the knee-jerk reaction, where we know we can just do a couple things that we know will happen in the next 5 years. We know confidently, we're saying that number, that there's going to be some coordination between the municipalities and the farmers. I mean, that's pretty much a given at this point. So, idea at our end, the way to help out the conservation district is to do our part with getting the baseline information established for the farm in East Cocalico and helping protect our farmers with getting them in the hands of Team Ag and grant money for them to implement these plans. And that's really what we're going to be, one of the focuses is going to be. And that one will give us, to be honest with you, a bigger, just getting the East Cocalico farms all meeting baseline and implementing plans will do more than going to stream bank restoration at Reamstown Park.
Right. Well, as a member of the IMG for 15 years now, years and years ago, the feds realized that there's water pollution problems, And the one thing they did was they mandated that a lot of the phosphorus be taken out of cleaning products, soap detergents and things like that. And so, the phosphorus thing they've been working on for umpteen years already. Now it's the rest of it, the nitrogen, and that's all fertilizer and manure driven. I mean, that's where it's coming from.
So they're going to, one of the county things that they will probably do is they will probably look at some regional facilities, probably in the Salisbury area, possibly in the Manor area for a second facility. There's a lot of CAFOs and stuff in that area. They're going to probably look at some sort of regional treatment facility for excess manure. I mean, that's just, there's two areas you would address farm compliance. You have the baseline first, but then you could address erosion, which is important. The other thing is you got to address the excess manure that's going on down the field. So there's more manure than we have fields to apply it on. So we have excess manure going down. So there's going to be, as the county's looking at it, there was a county engineering study over a decade ago that looked at a regional facility. I kind of don't write it, so I kind of know what was in it. But there are some other options that might be better nowadays for regional than that, but that concept is not new at this point.
Like a digester?
That was a regional digester at the time. It's a lot of times now might make more sense to do flash incineration now. I won't even go to technical details over the rest of the but that could be something. You could even have a group like LASA take on treatment of animal waste for the Manor Township, Manor area. So you have things that can occur for taking away excess manure. It's a matter of, again, who pays for the regional facility or who would pay LASA for the increased cost of adding additional treatment into their facilities. So that all has to be worked out rather quickly at this point at the county level. Now that they've committed to these numbers.
Well, there's a chance of it.
Yeah, Chance. Just curious, over the next 10 years, what does the township project to spend on MS for to come into compliance? Like, what is this all going to cost us?
I can't tell you beyond 5 years. So I'll be honest, I'm not even going to guess.
What's the 5-year number?
Five-year number, Ken, correct me if I'm wrong right
My
now.
number for the
PRP part.
reduction plan is about 600,000.
Right,
That's
and
only
then,
one part.
and then it's about,
That's one part of it.
That's only one part.
and then it's about
Yeah.
$160,000 a year roughly
I think
to
it's 150.
give or take.
The spreadsheet that was prepared, taking all the costs that relate to MS4, is about 150,000 a year.
Per year.
Per year, so times 5 is what?
$750,000.
Yeah, $750,000 there, plus the $500,000, so about $1.25 million
Yeah.
over the next 5 years for the township.
Isn't there something that says one government can't tell another government entity or place unnecessarily financially burdensome regulation on them?
No.
If there's really no way for funding?
No. Not only that, but just the way the state constitution is written, the local government only has powers that are granted to them by the state. So if it's not physically something that's given to us by the state, then the power resides with the state, not the local level. They also have the authority to tell us what to do at the local level, whether we like it or not.
Because I'm sure that we have, that every other municipality is having the same problem with this that we are. So why don't we all get together and sue the state, sue DEP? I'm serious, because we're spending, essentially, Lancaster County is spending millions of dollars to try and come into compliance. Wouldn't that money be better spent in a lawsuit to make it, that it actually, to have a chance that it might go away?
There was, if you weren't.
Because from what Ken said, these aren't even real numbers, these are all estimates.
Right, let me finish real quick, because I'm answering your question. Last fall, we did appeal our permit. I don't know if you were in that meeting, but we did.
Probably not.
We did appeal it, and we would have won that if we'd gone to court. And DEP backed off the requirements that were, in my opinion, outside of the Clean Water Act at the federal level. Unfortunately, the requirements that were left in the permit are fully compliant with the Clean Water Act. So not only would we not win a lawsuit, but our court case would not even make it into the court system because it would get thrown out without merit.
What
Where the
about federal?
department right now matches what the Clean Water Act. They have that much authority with the Clean Water Act to make the dictates that they've done to us right now.
But what about a federal suit? Because the feds are backing off of this.
On the federal side, again, what would we sue? Nothing that DEP's doing is in violation now of the Clean Water Act. So we don't have, what would we sue? There's nothing for us to sue. Just because we don't like something doesn't mean we can just sue it. We have to have something, a legal basis to conduct a lawsuit. We did have a
argue that it's
legal,
unnecessarily financially burdensome to the taxpayers of the township.
but that's where we have elected officials at the federal level. I mean, this is.
Yeah, no, I know.
This is law. We don't, we aren't, it's not something, the reason no municipalities have gone in on a lawsuit is we know we can't win.
It has to be changed at the federal level.
Yeah, this is,
So to file a lawsuit, sorry, Scott, what Scott's saying simply is to file a lawsuit against DEP or the EPA, they're following the Clean Water Act. That is the act that was put into law at the federal level. So you really, there's nothing you can sue over. So,
But if their whole program is based on estimates.
but the only thing you can, the only way something can change is it has to change at the federal level where they actually change the act.
But what I'm saying is, if we do our own study, I like that idea from Kenny, to have the road crew go out and take samples. If we do our own study and we find that the numbers are nowhere near what the feds are saying, can't we sue on merits if those estimates are wrong?
now we would go back and petition DEP to change the numbers, and more than likely they would.
Yeah,
But we
because-
have to be very careful too, because Ken knows it's a two-edged sword.
Oh, I know.
Because we're getting credits for stream bank restoration, and we could do sampling before and after that project and show absolutely no change in the water quality, given on what's going upstream. I mean, so it's a double-edged sword when we do our own sampling. We're not going to DEP right now proposing, we want to get the sample results and evaluate them first before we even have a conversation with DEP.
It's an internal thing, it would be an internal
Right,
thing on our
just
part,
internal.
just for our
Of
records.
course, unless it shows what we really want to show.
Right, yeah, right, which it probably isn't gonna, but,
We don't know, I mean, it could show improvements. It
Could.
And on the flip side,
But
it
it's
could
gonna
just,
take time, it's not something that you can do overnight.
and we could also have a farm upstream of this, that we do our sampling pre-project and changes owners, and there's new farming practices, and there's a whole slug now, additional sediment coming down, and we haven't shown any improvements with our project.
Yeah, because we're getting kind of the short end of the stick with Cocalico because of what's Cocalico.
I mean, I don't mean to get short with you, and I apologize for that, but I've been at this for almost 20 years. And I've become one of the biggest, and these guys know, I've become one of the biggest skeptics on the whole MS4 program. I know it's a waste of money. I know that it's not really accomplishing what it's being sold for at this point. I know that there are much better uses on our funding if we had directed it in different ways than the way it's being dictated to us. I know that DEP is the one that is directing us on what we can and can't do. I know EPA does not agree with them at the federal level, in which is that more of the money was going to ag unless if it was in the MS4 program, that there was greater flexibility that we currently don't have. But this is the hand that we've been dealt at this point, and we don't have a legal means now to challenge. We did challenge last fall, and we were successful. We appealed, they backed off a couple requirements that were in our permit that we thought violated the Clean Water Act. And so we won a big victory that reduced our pollution reduction costs by about half what they potentially could have been.
And that's awesome.
So let me back up something that Scott's saying here also, which will kind of wrap this together. You asked a good question, which is what does this cost in 5 years? Bigger question is what are the total impact costs over 5 years? And here's what I mean. You've got a lot of peripheral costs that don't have exact dollars assigned to it. Meaning, the amount of conversations I've had with Scott over this, the amount that I've had with Ken over this, with Tony, the amount that Alan has had with Scott, with Ken, with Tony, the same with Doug. All that time, all that energy, all that effort that's going on in the background, you can't even attach a dollar value to that. So the costs, those dollar costs that you're seeing, that's just a small sampling of the true cost of these programs. So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I just, I thought it'd be better to allocate that, do everything we can to try and allocate the funds for the township where they're needed. And my personal opinion, worried about the Chesapeake Bay, I mean, it's great to be environmentally conscientious, but we have bigger problems that are more pressing that we can't allocate money to because of this.
Well, all I can say, cheers, welcome to the club. So,
Okay, thank you. Fire EMS standing discussion.
As promised, we did have a fire chiefs meeting the other week. Chad's in the audience. I thought it was pretty productive. A couple things I wanted to throw past you for consideration, just in a general concept. There is a grant writing entity, Slide, I think it's guy's name is John Slide, but I think it's like Slide Consulting or something like that, who has done a wonderful job in the past with other fire companies at doing grant writing. He's successful when he writes grants when you have multiple fire companies go in together on grants. All three fire companies are willing to work together to produce items to apply for grants. What other municipalities typically do, and this guy has been very successful at winning grant money, is the municipality covers the grant writing costs, and then obviously the funds go to the fire companies for whatever they're getting grant monies for. So the most recent one I dealt with him was just the other year when the Hempfield, 4 of the 5 Hempfield fire companies went together and got grant monies to promote volunteerism. And if you go in the Hempfield area, you see all these firefighter signs, thousands of them are around the town in Mountfield Borough, East and West Hempfield. So he's got a pretty good track record. And so there could be some things like jetpacks and some turnout gear and stuff like that. Possibly iPads to replace the jetpacks. So there's certain things that we can possibly be looking at doing with them. I think your tanks was another thing you were talking about.
The air pack, that's
Yeah.
probably $250,000 price tag attached to that.
And when did they run out?
They're actually past due right now. The cylinder's good for about 4 more years, but the packs are actually out of date now. With the last service was done with them.
So I just wanted to run that general concept. I don't obviously have any proposals from John Sly. I don't know if he'll even do any grant writing for us. I just wanted to see if the board was okay with that. So we talked about, we have our next fire chiefs meeting with them, and they would come back with a list of items that we would like as all 3 fire companies to go in together with a grant. And we'll see if John Sly will join the firefighters and me at the next meeting. The other thing is we did throw out a study that the Hempfield area is doing with firefighting services, and that's being reviewed right now too. And that may also be another grant that we would ask John Sly to prepare for the township. That one came with a $25,000 price tag. And that involved 3 fire companies too in the Hempfield area. It involved the 2 Hempfield fire companies and East Petersburg Borough Fire Company.
What was the grant for?
They were looking at ways for the fire services to be more interrelated. It did not necessarily, in fact, the final findings did not use the word merger anywhere in the document. That's a sensitive subject with the fire companies there right now. But I did give the scope and fee to all 3 fire companies for them to comment on to see if that's something that we would like to consider. I did come back with a number of recommendations, including the township putting together a fire commission for East Pete Borough, and the hiring of a fire commissioner was some of the things that came out of that one. So there was a number of other things that they recommended, including how to do daytime calls, and maybe even having a regional unit that covers the daytime calls, because all 3 fire companies are falling short of volunteers in the daytime. Also looking at possibly making a incentive program to have employers as well as municipal employees have permission to go on daytime fire calls, and they would still be paid by their employer. And that's actually common in some areas. So we're looking at that in Hempfield area, and I threw that out here too. We have a couple on the road crew and on the water authority. There's a couple East Cocalico employees that might be interested in doing that, especially if they know they can step away. Your call comes in at 10 o'clock and they're out for 4 hours with the company.
Yeah, we did that before, we always.
So just those guys, because those are things that study looks at, commonality equipment, maybe fire companies specializing, how to do, and like I said, how to do mutual aid with one another for daytime calls and other things. All those things are in the study. They have the scope of works for review at this point. So that'll be another thing we're talking about. And then, since you got Chad here, not to put Chad on the spot, but you have iPads, and that was something that you were talking about. You want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah. Many years ago, we went in with Denver for a grant for the area. We got the book computers that came with programming for the fire departments for tracking calls. I think they gave us GPS still, and there's all kinds of stuff in that program from Compass, I believe it was. That company is no longer with us, and then computers are no longer usable for that. Reamstown has signed up with the Active 911 program. We have now also gone to that, and that is a program that for dispatching, it gives alerting to the people. It gives you GPSs to get to them, to the locations of them, gives you water sources, the hydrant systems for the county are on there, and a whole bunch of other information. But the computers that we got are not usable for that purpose. And it's actually a application ran process that works on an iPad or an iPhone or a Droid phone. You guys have provided us the service with the cellular thing to run that computers over the years, and that is becoming obsolete for us. So what we were looking for is to update to iPads with the cellular service and put them programs on there. And I believe I had just bought one of them through Verizon here locally for myself. I think it cost me $300 for the iPad, and I think the service was $10 for the add-on, which I think would take the place of what we use as a jetpacks now. So it is a very useful tool that would be mounted in the vehicles and to replace the big bulky laptops that we got. And then iPads also will have the ability to take out for pre-plans, to take pictures and stuff to load into that Active 911 program. So it is a very useful tool. I think that program costs us about $15 a year per person. So it is relatively cheap compared to the $6,000 or $7,000 a year to have that big Encompass program running. So that's what we're looking at and heading towards, and we're curious if the township would replace our jetpacks or cellular service with them products and make it more usable. We're not using that jetpacks as much as we should anymore.
So the other two fire departments are not that replaced yet, but they've seen, when Donnie and Scott seem very interested with that.
Scott's in the process of doing that, and they're trying to figure out how to fund it on their end. Just do it as the fire department, and then throwing that out there as the option, and have the township replace them, because we're using that we're paying for that service, but we're not using it. So it's there.
What did you say your thing cost then?
I think it was $300 for the iPad through the Verizon out here at Weavers. Now, I don't know if that was a special they were running at that point in time or not, but then it was an add-on for my service of $10.
You have a 2-year contract with that though, right?
No contract.
Okay.
Unlimited everything and no contract.
See, we have Verizon for the township and the police force. I wonder if we couldn't get it through that.
Well, that's what I think our service that you guys gave us, I think is tagged on that.
I was tagged onto that.
I believe so. I think that's how that was years ago.
Okay.
And the other thing we're going to need to be looking at, so that all 3 fire chiefs are going to get the next meeting, we're going to be talking about that some more. And then Scott brought up Verizon's equivalent to AT&T's FirstNet, which is something that we're probably going to want to migrate to. And I don't know if the police have migrated to that yet or not.
Yeah, I did that on my service. I was actually one of the first ones to get that.
What the FirstNet concept is for your benefit, take back to the chief and the police department, is it gives you prioritized service cost plus discounts, but he also gives you a priority